When looking at the vast area of choosing a career, I have centered my view on civil engineering. There is an engineering firm out in Rapid City called Albertson Engineering, and its president and leading engineer is none other than my uncle. Mr. Michael Albertson has helped to guide me in the engineering field, so this interview was not out of the ordinary. A small phone call was initiated, and I asked simple, vague, and common questions that a student would ask when looking at a career. The interview was very relaxed and somewhat fun. My main reason for choosing to call my uncle is because I've always looked at getting into a career like his. I would too like to design buildings and see them take shape. This interview was another building block for the information about civil engineering that I have learned. I asked him lots of questions. Like I asked him, why did you become a civil engineer? He said that he wanted to get into construction, wanted to get into specifics and designs of buildings. And his education level of training was a Bachelor's of Science, a Master's of Science, and a few other certifications. He's a leading professional. 30 hours of continuing education was needed, and for 2 years. He did about 30 hours a year. But he then told me that he did a lot of extra work with a lot of other engineers. I asked him, what did you learn as a civil engineer? He said to always keep in mind that people are relying upon them to make a safe structure for them. And then I asked, how do you believe you've developed or changed since you have begun your career? He said that he's hoped to stay the same person that he always has been. He wants to stress to others that you have a lot of power and you don't want to let that get to your head. He said that I try to make sure that people that work for me do the opposite and listen to the people when they're building the structure. He said, then I asked, what type of communication do you use in your profession? He said that there's all kinds. There's meetings, person-to-person discussions, emails, video conferences, very varied. Choose whatever first happens to the application best, he said, to get a hold of them. He then asked, in your line of work, how important is being an effective communicator? He said that it was very important. It separates the good engineers from the ones that stand out from the rest, and also the ones that make the good money. I then asked, what types of strategies do you use to be an effective communicator at work? He said, listening. Listen well to what they're saying so that you can get what they're trying to say out as well. And then asked, just out of curiosity, what age range do you encounter the most? And he said mainly guys in their 30s to 60s, around his age. I then asked, how does this affect your communication strategies? He said it doesn't affect them at all. It helps them to know their background, and you just want to try to speak on the customer's terms. I then asked, what are some audience analysis issues that he has to deal with? And he said sometimes it depends on the large groups. It can range from 4 to 150 people. Focusing on what he knows very well is also important. He'll try to point out a few points of what he wants to hit. He rarely ever writes out what he's going to say, and he never practices. And then he also told me, you want to make sure to let your audience know of what you want them to know. He made sure to hit those points all the time. It helps to talk naturally instead of planning out in a group. He likes to talk in person instead of trying to go out there and just reiterate points over and over again like he's reading off a paper. I then asked, does your job focus more on listening or speaking, and does it help to master both? He said, once again, listening. Make sure you have big ears. If you're just telling some people stuff all the time, it won't get you far. He doesn't know, but he just thinks you can. Just take a risk and be humble. If you are humble, you listen to the people more and take in their ideas. And if they see that you listen, they will also listen. This interview was very helpful for me in my knowledge of the profession of civil engineering. I feel more confident in the choosing of my career because I feel that I will be good with communicating with people as well as listening to them. I didn't know how much communication was involved with this job, but now I know that I will have to be prepared to be a good speaker and listener. In conclusion, civil engineering is a wondrous career, one which I cannot wait to get involved in. Even though it is mainly designing, communication is vital to this job, just like any other job. Now we'll be ready for the challenges ahead.